Frage, finde ich. Das ist so hart.
So, arkane Kunst.
These are the most disturbing things on the internet, arranged in the form of an iceberg. We'll start with the strange and unsettling, but as the video goes on, each layer will get darker until we reach the truly horrific. Viewer discretion is highly advised. Level 1. Drakenlord was a German YouTuber whose story began like many others, with simple videos and small dreams, but soon turned into one of the most infamous sagas in internet history. In the beginning, he was just a man who loved heavy metal, uploading clips of himself headbanging and talking about the bands he admired. His energy was raw, his attitude bold, and in the early days he gained attention for being loud and unfiltered. But not all attention is good, and the fame that came to him soon grew into something dark and cruel.
Ah, diese YouTube-Mächte, Alter. Die Macht des YouTube ist mit mir.
Drakenlord, whose real name is Rainer Winkler, became known not just for his videos but for his outspoken personality and his habit of arguing with anyone who criticized him. His words often invited conflict, and online communities began to turn against him. What started as mocking comments slowly became a campaign of harassment that went far beyond the screen. People found his address, shared it publicly, and began showing up at his home. His house, which came to be known as the Dragon Bunker, became a real-world stage for chaos. Trolls threw eggs, smashed windows, and filmed themselves vandalizing his property, calling it the Dragon Games.
Wir wollen wirklich keinen Stress oder sowas. Es ist zu spät. Mit dir. Natürlich taucht das auf.
Instead of walking away, Drakenlord fought back. He yelled at the crowds outside, threatened them, and even challenged them to come face him. Each time he spoke, the situation only got worse. The more he resisted, the more they came, and soon his quiet village turned into a place of constant disturbance. What began as online trolling became a nightmare that followed him every single day.
Ja.
Der provoziert mich seit 10 Minuten.
Alter, jetzt schmeißt er die Brüche raus.
Was ich kann! Du stehst vor meiner Tür, du Assi, Alter! Was ich hier kann und was du kannst, Junge! Sind Welten!
Years passed, and his mental health began to break. He grew paranoid, angry, and isolated. Videos showed him carrying sticks and shouting at strangers. His content shifted from music to outbursts, and his viewers watched him slowly fall apart. Eventually, the law stepped in. After several arrests and legal battles, Drakenlord was sentenced to 2 years in prison. When he was released, he had lost almost everything, from his home to his reputation. He was banned from streaming and forced to sell the Dragon Bunker, leaving behind the house that had once been his dream but had turned into a prison.
Da sieht man, wie er die Sachen schmeißt.
Today, he lives a quieter life, moving from place to place, still recognized, still followed by the echoes of the past. Many see him as a man who made mistakes that fueled his own downfall, yet the endless harassment he endured remains one of the darkest examples of how far cruelty can go when the internet decides to destroy someone. His story stands as a warning about how fame, pride, and hate can consume a person until there is nothing left but the wreckage of what they once were. Level 2. Silk Road. In 2011, an anonymous user who went by the name Altoid appeared on a Bitcoin forum and wrote a small message that would quietly open the door to one of the most infamous places ever found on the dark web. He asked if anyone had heard of a new marketplace called the Silk Road, a site hidden deep in the internet where, as he claimed, everything was completely anonymous and every payment was made with Bitcoin. At the time, Bitcoin was still new, and the idea of buying things with it sounded futuristic. But what made the Silk Road different was not the technology, it was what people could buy there.
The FBI has been detailing the activities of the Silk Road website. It's shut.
Once word spread, thousands began to visit. Behind encrypted walls and hidden browsers, people could buy and sell almost anything. The site was laid out like an ordinary online store, with listings and reviews, but the items were far from ordinary. Hard drugs were the top sellers, followed by guns, stolen data, malware, fake passports, and entire identities for sale. There were even whispers about hitmen offering their services, though it was never proven if those offers were real. For 2 years, the Silk Road ran almost freely, turning over hundreds of millions of dollars and creating an entire underground economy built on secrecy and trust among criminals.
Silk Road first launched in 2011 as an underground website where users could browse anonymously for drugs.
While users believed they were invisible, federal law enforcement had been watching. The FBI and other agencies went undercover, buying drugs and tracing Bitcoin transactions, but every lead led them to another shadow. Then, in 2013, Gary Alford, a quiet agent from the Internal Revenue Service, began to dig through old forum posts. When he searched the Silk Road's address on Google, he found something the others had missed. It was that early post from Altoid, the same one that had first mentioned the site before anyone else knew it existed. Curious, Alford checked Altoid's profile and found another post made months later, where the same user had shared a job offer and asked applicants to email a man named Ross Ulbricht.
On the internet, today the feds announced they arrested the site's founder, 29-year-old Ross Ulbricht.
That one mistake unraveled everything. When the FBI raided Ulbricht's apartment and seized his laptop, they found chat logs, journal entries, and code that proved he was the creator and operator of the Silk Road. He had used the alias Dread Pirate Roberts, taking his name from a movie character known for never dying, but in real life, his reign ended there. In October 2013, the site was shut down, and authorities seized more than 144,000 bitcoins worth millions of dollars.
We showed you how the Silk Road sells everything from black tar heroin to crack cocaine. Now it has been taken over by the FBI, and users see this message when they try to access it.
Ross Ulbricht was later sentenced to life in prison for drug trafficking, computer hacking, and money laundering, though in January 2025, President Trump granted him a pardon.
Last night, Donald Trump granted me a full pardon. I was doing life without parole, and I was locked up for more than 11 years.
But the damage had already been done. The Silk Road had shown the world what was possible when anonymity, money, and crime came together online. Even after it was destroyed, dozens of other darknet markets rose to take its place, each one promising the same secrecy, each one repeating the same mistakes. The Silk Road was gone, but the shadow economy it created still moves quietly beneath the surface of the web, a reminder that some doors, once opened, can never truly be closed. Level 3. Robert the Doll. In the quiet halls of the East Martello Museum in Key West, Florida, there sits a glass case that draws visitors from all over the world. Inside it rests a doll named Robert, about 40 inches tall, dressed in a sailor's suit and holding a small teddy bear. At first glance, he looks like a simple child's toy, worn with age and time. But those who know his story speak of something far darker. Robert the doll is said to be haunted, and for more than a century, strange things have followed wherever he goes.
That's funny. That's funny because the Aussies pick up so well, we know Aussies, not so much John, but me. I talk to the Americans.
Long before he was displayed in the museum, Robert belonged to a boy named Robert Eugene Otto, known to his family as Gene. He grew up in an old house on Eaton Street in Key West, the son of a prominent family. How the doll first came into his hands is uncertain. Some say a servant gave it to him as revenge after being mistreated, using dark magic to curse it. Others say his grandfather bought it for him in Germany, where a toy company called the Stave Company had made it as a display figure. Whatever the truth, Gene loved the doll deeply, so much that he named it after himself. From that day on, the boy was called Gene, and the doll was called Robert.
He is. He loves beautiful ladies. Yeah. Look at that big smile.
Their bond became strange. Gene talked to Robert as if he were alive, giving him his own room in the attic filled with furniture, toys, and clothes from Gene's childhood. The two were inseparable. But soon, the house began to change. Servants heard footsteps and laughter coming from empty rooms. Objects were found to be moved or broken. When Gene's parents asked about it, he would simply say, "Robert did it." At first, they thought it was an overactive imagination, but visitors claimed they saw the doll's expression change whenever anyone said something unkind about Gene. Even after Gene grew up, Robert never left. When Gene married and returned to his family home with his wife Annette, the doll was still there waiting for him. Annette disliked it immediately and asked that it be kept away. Gene placed Robert in an upstairs room, propped against the window. Children passing by the house swore they saw the doll move from one window to another, as if watching them. When Gene died in 1974, Annette locked Robert in the attic, wanting nothing more to do with him. Years later, a woman named Myrtle Reuter bought the house and found the doll once more. Strange things began to happen again. Guests heard giggling in empty rooms, and Myrtle once claimed Robert had locked her inside her bedroom. Finally, she took him to the East Martello Museum, hoping that there he would cause no more trouble. Today, Robert sits safely behind glass, but even there, the stories continue. Some visitors say they see him blink or watch his chest rise as if he were breathing. Others claim they feel a light tap on their knees when they get too close. Those who take his picture without asking permission often regret it. The museum receives hundreds of letters from people begging Robert to forgive them after accidents, illnesses, or tragedies that they believe came from disrespecting him. Broken bones, car crashes, divorces, even deaths have been blamed on his curse.
Visitors to the house claim they heard unexplained giggling noises emanating from the room where Robert was stored. Stories also circulated the doll moved itself around the room.
Whether Robert is truly haunted or not, no one can say for sure. Some believe he holds the spirit of a child. Others think he became a vessel for the guilt and anger Gene placed in him long ago. But one thing remains certain. Behind that glass with his cold, unblinking eyes and faint smile, Robert the doll continues to stare back, watching everyone who dares to look too long. Level 4. Deadly Swatting. In December 2017, a petty argument over a video game turned into one of the most senseless tragedies the online world had ever seen. It started with a small bet, only $11.50, during a heated Call of Duty match between two young players named Casey Viner and Shane Gaskell. After the game ended, frustration took over, and the two began to argue online. Insults were exchanged, threats were made, and in the middle of it all, Viner warned that he would swat Gaskell, meaning he would call the police with a fake emergency to send an armed response to his home. Instead of backing down, Gaskell made things worse. He taunted Viner, daring him to do it and sending him an address to target. What he didn't say was that the address wasn't his own. It belonged to a man named Andrew Finch, a 28-year-old father of two who lived quietly with his family in Wichita, Kansas, and had nothing to do with any of them. Viner then contacted another man, a known swatter named Tyler Barris, who used the online name Swatistic. Barris had a long history of making false emergency calls to police departments across the country. When he got the address, he picked up the phone and spun a horrifying story. He told the 911 dispatcher that he had shot his father, that he was holding family members hostage, and that he had poured gasoline all over the house, threatening to set it on fire if officers arrived.
This is 911. What's going on?
I shot him in the head and he's not breathing anymore. I already poured gasoline all over the house. I might just set it on fire.
Do you have any weapons on you?
Moments later, heavily armed police surrounded Andrew Finch's home. Inside, the family had no idea what was happening. When Finch stepped outside, confused by the shouting and flashing lights, an officer named Justin Rapp believed he saw Finch reaching for a weapon and opened fire. The bullet struck Finch in the chest, killing him on his own doorstep within seconds. He had done nothing wrong, said nothing threatening, and had never even heard of the people who had caused his death. The killing sent shockwaves through the country. Many blamed the police for acting too quickly. Others focused on the growing problem of swatting and the reckless cruelty of those who treated it as a joke. Investigators soon traced the hoax call back to Barris, who was arrested in Los Angeles. He later received a 20-year prison sentence, one of the longest ever for a swatting case. Viner and Gaskell, the two gamers whose feud had set everything in motion, were sentenced to 15 and 18 months in prison. Officer Rapp faced no criminal charges.
I just wish I could have, rewound somehow, and just never done it. It hasn't just affected my life, it's affected, someone's family too, as well. Someone lost their life.
Andrew Finch's death remains a haunting reminder of how quickly an online argument can turn deadly. A fight over a video game, a few thoughtless words, and a prank call ended with the loss of an innocent life. What began as a clash between strangers on the internet ended with a family in Kansas forever changed and a country forced to confront the deadly consequences of digital cruelty. Level 5. Kaylin Blue. On June 23, 2019, police officers in Idaho arrived at a quiet suburban home after friends and family grew worried about a woman named Kaylin Blue. She had suddenly stopped showing up for work and had not answered her phone in days. What began as a simple welfare check quickly turned into something horrifying. When officers knocked on the door, they were met by Kaylin's boyfriend, a 33-year-old man named Philip Schwab. Calmly and without hesitation, he led them through the house and into the backyard, where a freshly dug patch of dirt waited beneath a flower bed. There, buried in a shallow grave, was Kaylin's body.
Not today, Your Honor. All right, Mr. Dewey, is there anything you'd like to add today?
I think I'm okay, Your Honor. Thank you.
Just one moment, please.
I guess I would just ask if the court is planning on setting the preliminary hearing date.
Inside the house, the signs of violence were everywhere. Blood spattered across walls and floors told a story of struggle and rage. Just hours before her death, Kaylin had been full of life, posting on Facebook about how happy she was to spend a peaceful evening at home. Friends described her as kind and hopeful, someone who always looked for the good in others. But that same night, Philip's own online posts painted a far darker picture. He wrote dozens of disturbing messages filled with anger and confusion, including one chilling sentence that read, "She deserves quicker."
For business and just for other people's personal use, like new babies.
Investigators soon pieced together the events of that night. While Kaylin slept, Philip attacked her, stabbing her in the neck without warning. She tried to fight back, but he continued the assault, stabbing her again and again until she died. When the house fell silent, he dragged her body outside and buried her in the garden. Police later discovered that he had also killed their two dogs, tossing their bodies into a trash bin.
Patch in the backyard, and so the officers were able to locate and recover her remains. There were also two dogs that were stabbed and killed, and they were in a garage.
When questioned, Philip gave no clear reason for what he had done. He claimed that Kaylin had hit him in her sleep, that she had thrashed around and struck him, and that something inside him had snapped. His explanation made little sense, and his words were scattered and confused. As the investigation continued, it became clear that he had long suffered from severe mental illness. Doctors later diagnosed him with DiGeorge syndrome, a rare genetic disorder often linked to serious psychiatric problems. The escalator incident. On a quiet Sunday morning in July 2015, families filled the Anlong department store in Jingzhou, China. It was the kind of ordinary day meant for shopping and small joys, with the hum of chatter mixing with the steady clatter of escalators carrying people up and down the bright floors. Among the shoppers was a young mother named Xiang Liujuan, 31 years old, walking hand in hand with her husband and their 2-year-old son. The child was excited, pointing eagerly at the moving stairs, wanting to ride them like any curious toddler would. Smiling, Xiang lifted him into her arms and stepped onto the escalator, unaware that a fatal mistake made days earlier was about to turn that moment into tragedy. Unbeknownst to her, Maintenance workers had recently serviced that very escalator but had forgotten to bolt down a large metal floor panel at the top. The cover was meant to hide the machinery below, but without the screws, it was waiting to collapse. Just moments before Xiang's family stepped on, 2 store employees had almost fallen into the opening when the panel shifted under their feet. They had called for maintenance but were told to wait, so they stood nearby, warning shoppers as best they could. But time was running out. As Xiang reached the top, she placed 1 foot forward, still holding her son. When the metal plate suddenly tilted downward, the floor gave way beneath her. In a split second, she realized what was happening and made a desperate choice. She thrust her child forward, pushing him into the arms of a nearby worker who managed to grab him just in time. Another woman reached for Xiang's hand, but the escalator continued to move, pulling her in. The metal machinery swallowed her before anyone could pull her free. For 4 hours, firefighters worked to dismantle the escalator piece by piece, their tools echoing through the now empty mall. When they finally reached her, Xiang was gone. The mother, who had been out shopping with her family, had died saving her son's life. In the days that followed, grief and outrage spread across China. People demanded to know how something so preventable could happen. The workers who had ignored the warning were condemned, and the department store faced intense scrutiny. Yet, amid the anger, many also spoke of Xiang's final act of courage. In the instant when fear could have taken over, she thought only of her child and gave him the one thing she had left to give, her life. Level 6, Raw Meat. Gotis Lagans, better known online as SV3 Rij, was a Latvian YouTuber who built his name on shock and outrage. To his followers, he was a crusader against veganism, but to most of the world, he was a man whose actions grew more disturbing with every passing year. His videos showed him eating raw meat in public, sneering at animal rights activists and mocking those who lived by compassion. He claimed he was helping vegans by showing them the supposed truth about diet and health, but his methods were grotesque.
That's all I ever did? Yeah, the feet. That's still hard. Are you done, man? No, I'm just getting started. You got yours?
In 2019, he made headlines after showing up at VegFest in Brighton, England, holding a raw pig's head and eating it in front of horrified onlookers. Just a week later, he appeared again, this time at the Soho Vegan Market, wearing a shirt that read, "Veganism equals malnutrition." Around his neck hung the carcass of a bird, and in his hands he held the body of a decapitated squirrel. Without hesitation, he began eating it in front of the crowd. Even those who weren't vegan were revolted. Police arrested him that day, and he was later fined for disturbing the peace. His YouTube channel held hundreds of videos just like these, scenes of him eating raw flesh, drinking blood, and preaching about the natural human diet. The content was too graphic to be monetized, so he relied on donations from fans who shared his views. The money helped him travel across the world, filming new stunts and spreading his messages. But beneath the theatrics and the arrogance, there were darker pieces of his past that painted a much more violent picture.
Because it's starvation.
Huh?
Because it's starvation, but you won't get any nutrients in the vegan.
When he was 16, Goatis had been expelled from school after stabbing 4 classmates. Over the years, he also developed a reputation for making racist and conspiratorial statements online, growing more extreme as his fame grew. Then, in 2022, his name surfaced again, this time not for a stunt, but for something far more sinister. In Latvia, a woman named Diane was attacked outside her home with acid. She survived, but suffered severe injuries. Diane was not just anyone. She was Goatis' ex-wife and the mother of his child. Their relationship had been abusive, and she had previously accused him of beating and throwing acid at her. After the attack, her house was mysteriously set on fire, deepening the suspicion that someone wanted her gone. Rumors began spreading that Goatis had obtained a large amount of Bitcoin and had paid someone to harm her, though the connection was never proven in court. Cassie Jo Stoddard. Cassie Jo Stoddard was a 16-year-old high school student from Pocatello, Idaho, whose life was full of promise. She was quiet, responsible, and loved by her teachers and friends. On September 22, 2006, she agreed to house sit for her aunt and uncle while they were out of town, taking care of their pets and watching over the home. It was supposed to be an ordinary weekend, but instead, it became one of the most chilling crimes in American teenage history. A murder born from obsession, arrogance, and a disturbing need for fame.
As she was both reliable and trustworthy, her aunt and uncle, Allison and Frank Contreras, asked her to house sit for them and watch their pets whilst they were out of town.
That evening, Cassie invited her boyfriend, Matt Beckham, and two of their classmates, Brian Draper and Tori Adamczyk, to come over. The four of them hung out in the living room, watching movies and talking, the kind of night that felt safe and innocent. Cassie, always polite, even gave her guests a tour of the house, showing them around the basement and upstairs rooms. After a while, Brian and Tori said they were leaving to go see a movie at the theater, leaving Cassie and Matt alone. What no one realized was that Brian and Tori weren't going to the theater at all. They were going to prepare for something monstrous.
There should be no law against killing people. I know it's a wrong thing, but hell, you restrict somebody from it, they're gonna want it.
Once they left, the two boys returned in dark clothing and masks, armed with knives. They slipped into the house through the basement and waited there, whispering and recording their thoughts on a camera. Their goal wasn't money or revenge, it was to create a real-life horror movie. They wanted to kill someone and become famous for it. As they hid in the shadows, they tried to lure Cassie and Matt downstairs by cutting the power, hoping the couple would come to investigate. But when Matt's mother arrived to pick him up, Cassie chose to stay behind, wanting to finish her job as a house sitter. That small act of responsibility would cost her life.
We know there's lots of doors. There's lots of places to hide. I locked the back doors. That's all locked. Now we just gotta wait.
Once Cassie was alone, the boys made their move. They turned the lights off again, then crept up the stairs wearing masks, holding their knives. Cassie must have heard the sounds and felt the terror before they struck. They stabbed her more than 30 times, attacking with such violence that the knife wounds covered her neck, chest, and back. When it was over, she lay still on the floor, her blood soaking the carpet, while the boys ran into the night.
We just left her house. This is not a fucking joke. I stabbed her in the throat and I saw her lifeless body just disappear. Dude, I just killed Cassie. Fuck. That felt like fucking real. I mean, it went by so fast.
Later, investigators found the burned remains of their clothes and weapons. But what truly shocked everyone were the videotapes the killers had made before and after the murder. In them, they spoke calmly about their plans, laughing and saying they were about to make history. They called Cassie their test run, bragging about how good it felt. These videos erased any doubt about what had motivated them. This was never about anger or impulse. It was about fame, about being remembered, even if it meant for something horrifying. Level 7, Home Invasion. On the afternoon of December 1st, 2019, a quiet family home in Florida turned into the scene of an unthinkable tragedy. Inside were 21-year-old Christopher Neal, his wife, and their young daughter, spending what should have been an ordinary day together. Just after 1 o'clock, their lives were shattered when a man named William Jones, 37 years old, forced his way inside. He was armed with 2 shotguns and carried an expression that spoke of confusion and madness.
What is the location of your emergency?
Yeah, there's a man in my house right now.
What is, hold on, stop for a second.
What? There's a man in my house.
I need you to give me your address first.
Proctor Avenue.
Is that a house or an apartment?
House at the end of the street.
As soon as the intruder entered, Christopher grabbed his phone and called 911. The recording that followed would later become one of the most haunting pieces of evidence from that day. His voice trembled as he tried to stay calm, speaking softly to his wife and child while trying to reason with the stranger in front of him. "There's a man in my house right now," he told the operator, his words tight with fear. In the background, his wife could be heard crying, and the man's voice came through, angry, disoriented, and impossible to predict.
We still are. He's right here. Okay. William. Yes, ma'am. William. Okay. Can Christopher and his wife and daughter step outside?
Yeah. Ma'am, they're safe.
They're safe.
They're safe. They're going to stay right here with you.
What are you doing in their house?
I told you there were shots fired.
Where were shots fired at?
Throughout the call, Jones made strange demands. He wanted to speak directly to the 911 operator, insisting over and over that he wasn't going to hurt anyone. Yet his hands were gripping 2 loaded guns, and every word he spoke seemed more unstable than the last. Christopher tried everything he could to keep the situation under control. He spoke softly, telling his wife to take their daughter upstairs, trying to keep them out of harm's way. He asked Jones what he wanted, offered to help him, pleaded with him to stay calm. It was the desperate voice of a father trying to protect the people he loved most.
What's suspect name? William. Hey, no, William, we're not coming in.
William, you stay cool, we're not coming in, you understand?
When officers arrived outside the home, the dispatcher connected them directly to the line. A deputy tried to talk Jones down, his tone gentle but firm. "Hey, this is Joe from the sheriff's department," he said. "How are you, man?" There was a long silence, and then the call cut off. Seconds later, a gunshot echoed through the phone. The operator heard the screams of Christopher's wife, followed by the low whisper of the intruder saying, "Christopher is dead." Christopher had been shot in the head. He was still alive when officers stormed the house, but his injuries were too severe. 3 deputies were also wounded during the standoff before Jones was finally subdued and taken into custody. Mary Vincent. In the fall of 1978, a 15-year-old girl named Mary Vincent stood by the side of a California highway with her thumb out, hoping for a ride. Her parents' marriage had fallen apart, and she had been drifting, caught between homes, and longing to return to Las Vegas where she thought she could start over. She was young, exhausted, and trusted that kindness still existed in the world. When a van pulled over, driven by a gray-haired man named Lawrence Singleton, she thought her luck had finally turned. He looked like someone's grandfather, polite and calm, and when he said he had a daughter her age, Mary felt safe enough to get in.
Dad, I wanted to go home. That's the only thing that was in my mind, is that I wanted to go home.
But somewhere along the long, sunburned stretch of road, the feeling changed. Lawrence began driving in the wrong direction, and when Mary tried to leave, he struck her, knocking her unconscious. When she woke, she was bound and terrified. What followed was a night of horror that few could imagine. Lawrence assaulted her, then, as she begged for her life, took an axe and cut off both of her arms. Believing she would bleed to death, he dragged her to the edge of a 30-foot cliff and threw her down like garbage before driving away.
The way the detectives told me, they traced the blood going back up, and it says, "We don't know how you did it, but you did it."
So you got up that cliff wall, and you headed for the highway?
Somehow, Mary survived. Her body was broken and her arms were gone, but her will to live did not die. She rolled her stumps in mud to stop the bleeding, then began the impossible task of climbing back up the rocky cliff. Inch by inch, she pulled herself upward, holding her arms above her head to keep from losing more blood. When she reached the top, she started walking, naked and bleeding, toward the sound of traffic. She walked 3 miles before a couple in a passing car saw her and stopped. They wrapped her in towels and rushed her to safety.
I knew that if he were to do this to somebody else, they wouldn't survive it, and I don't know if I'm going to survive this. So I had to get up as quickly as I could to get help. And I climbed.
At the hospital, even while weak from blood loss, Mary refused to rest. She stayed awake to help the police make a sketch of the man who had done this to her. It worked. A neighbor recognized him, and soon Lawrence Singleton was arrested. At his trial, Mary faced him bravely, pointing him out in the courtroom and telling her story in front of the jury. He was sentenced to 14 years in prison, the maximum allowed at the time, but after only 8 years and 4 months, he was released on good behavior.